Some ships disappear without warning. Others return without their crew. Tonight we uncover 3 real vessels found adrift at sea, intact, silent, and emptied of every living soul. No storm, no struggle, no explanation. Just the ship, and a silence that still hasn't been broken. Case 1. SS Ourang Medan. The message came without warning. SOS from Ourang Medan. All officers, including the captain, are dead. Lying in chart room and bridge, possibly whole crew dead. Then a pause, followed by one final transmission. I die. After that, only silence. It was June 1947, and several ships in the Strait of Malacca picked up the strange distress call. The message was garbled, fading in and out, but the words were unmistakable. Something was horribly wrong. The Silver Star, an American merchant ship, happened to be the closest vessel. Upon receiving the transmission, its captain made the immediate decision to change course. They began searching the waters, triangulating the source of the call. Hours later, the Silver Star spotted a ship drifting silently across the calm sea. Its hull bore the name SS Ourang Medan. No flags, no signal, no movement. The ship looked intact. There was no visible damage. But as the Silver Star approached, no one appeared on deck. No radio responses. No human presence at all. A boarding team was dispatched. As they stepped aboard, the silence was overwhelming. The deck was still, but the sense of unease was immediate. Then they saw the first body. A crewman lay flat on his back, arms stiff at his sides, eyes wide open. His expression was frozen in terror, mouth slightly open as if caught mid-scream. The sailors kept moving and found more of the same. Crew members were scattered throughout the vessel, all lifeless, all with the same horrific look on their faces. In the bridge, the officers were dead. In the chart room, the captain's body slumped against a desk. Even the ship's dog had died, its teeth bared, frozen mid-snarl. Perhaps most chilling was the radio operator. He was still at his post, his hand resting near the Morse key, lifeless, staring. There were no signs of injury, no wounds, no blood. Just dead bodies in unnatural poses, as if they had died mid-movement, faces twisted in fear, arms reaching toward the sky. The crew of the Silver Star noticed something else too. The air below deck was hot. Not just warm, but stifling. So much so that they could barely stand to be down there. Some suspected a fire was smoldering. Others thought it might be a malfunctioning boiler. They returned topside and prepared to tow the ship. But the moment they attached the tow lines, smoke began rising from the hull. Seconds later, the Ourang Medan exploded. The blast split the vessel in two, sending fire and debris into the sky before the entire ship sank beneath the waves. Whatever happened aboard the Ourang Medan, whatever evidence might have been left, was now gone. Forever. There was no official investigation. No surviving documents. No follow-up from governments. The ship's registry couldn't be located. The Silver Star's crew made statements, but there was no forensic trail to follow. The case slipped quietly into obscurity until it didn't. Over time, the story of the Ourang Medan took on a life of its own. Maritime historians debated its authenticity. Paranormal investigators were drawn to the sheer strangeness of the case, and skeptics, of course, questioned whether the ship had ever existed at all. But details kept resurfacing. The name Ourang Medan loosely translates to man from Medan, referring to a city in northern Sumatra. In the chaotic post-World War II era, many ships operated under informal flags or unregistered names, especially in Southeast Asia. It's possible that the vessel existed under a temporary alias to avoid port taxes or scrutiny. Or perhaps it was involved in something darker, something worth hiding. One of the most widely accepted theories suggests that the ship was transporting hazardous cargo, either nitroglycerin potassium cyanide or some leftover wartime chemicals. If one of those containers leaked, it could have caused a toxic reaction, killing the crew quickly and without external signs. The heat below deck might have signaled an ongoing chemical reaction, one that ultimately caused the explosion. But if that were true, why such a chilling final message? I die. Not the ship is sinking, not send help, just I die. Another theory suggests carbon monoxide poisoning. A slow buildup of exhaust or gas from the engine could have led to suffocation. Yet that wouldn't explain the panicked expressions, the twisted limbs, or the position of the bodies. It certainly wouldn't explain the dog's death in such a violent posture. Others believe the answer lies in something less natural. Some say the crew encountered a supernatural entity, an invisible force that attacked without mercy. Perhaps something attached to an artifact in the cargo, or something that had been disturbed at sea. Those who favor this idea point to the lack of physical trauma. No wounds, no struggle, just horror, frozen in time. But then there's another possibility. One that's perhaps even more disturbing because it doesn't rely on the paranormal at all. What if the ship was never meant to be found? Some researchers have floated the idea that the Ourang Medan was part of a clandestine operation. Perhaps a smuggling run involving banned materials, chemical weapons, or wartime research. If the cargo became unstable, the crew may have panicked. Someone might have tried to send a warning. And when the ship was located, someone may have made sure it didn't survive long enough to tell the full story. The fact that no official record of the ship exists certainly adds weight to that theory. The explosion, just as the ship was being towed, could be seen as a deliberate act, destroying evidence before it could reach port. There are even rumors of declassified intelligence documents that reference an unflagged Dutch vessel lost in the Malacca Strait 1947. But these documents are often redacted, and no agency has officially acknowledged the event. Today, the SS Ourang Medan is considered one of the most baffling maritime mysteries of the 20th century. It appears in naval ghost ship lists, conspiracy forums, and even war records, each with slightly different details. Some say the transmission was picked up by a British ship, not American. Some claim the explosion happened at sea. Others say it occurred near a harbor. But one detail remains constant. A ship was found, its entire crew dead in unnatural poses. Moments later, it exploded and vanished beneath the waves. There were no survivors, no answers. Just one fading radio message still echoing decades later. All officers, including the captain, are dead. Possibly whole crew dead. I die. And in that silence left behind in the water is the one truth that remains. Sometimes the most terrifying part of a ghost ship is not that it sails without a crew, but that the crew was there, and something took them. Case 2. MV Joyita, the lost crew of the Silent Sea. It was supposed to be a routine trip. On October 3rd, 1955, a small merchant vessel named MV Joyita set off from the port of Apia in western Samoa. The ship was scheduled to travel to the Tokelau Islands about 270 miles away, a journey expected to take no more than 2 days. Aboard were 25 people, 16 crew members and 9 passengers, including a government official, a doctor, and 2 children. The vessel was also carrying cargo worth thousands of dollars, medical supplies, timber food, and empty oil drums. But the Joyita never arrived. A radio distress signal was reportedly sent during the early hours of October 4th, but the transmission was weak, garbled, and crucially misdirected. The signal didn't reach its intended destination. No one came, and no one searched. For nearly 5 weeks, the Joyita vanished into the vast Pacific Ocean. No debris, no sightings, just absence. Then on November 10th, a passing merchant ship spotted something drifting 600 miles off course near Fiji. It was the Joyita, abandoned, half-submerged, and eerily silent. Rescuers approached and found the ship listing heavily to one side, its hull flooded but still afloat thanks to its cork-lined compartments. The scene on board was strange. There were no people, not a single soul. But there were signs of something gone terribly wrong. All 25 passengers and crew were missing and never found again. The lifeboats were gone. So were all the life vests. The cargo was missing, too completely stripped, including heavy crates and medical equipment. Blood stains were discovered on deck and in the captain's quarters. A doctor's bag was found open, its contents scattered. Bandages soaked in dried blood lay nearby. In the control room, investigators noticed something odd. The ship's radio had been tuned to the wrong emergency frequency, meaning no outgoing calls would have reached help. Even stranger, the radio itself had been tampered with, rewired, and disabled. The ship's clock had stopped at exactly 10:25 p.m. The logbook was missing. The navigational equipment was either gone or smashed. There was also evidence the crew had made desperate repairs. Pumps were found disassembled, and makeshift attempts to patch the flooding were left half-finished. But most haunting of all, the ship's engine was completely silent. There was no sign of power failure. It had simply been switched off. Why would a seaworthy vessel with working engines and enough flotation to remain stable be abandoned by everyone on board? And where did they go? The waters around the ship were searched. No lifeboats, no bodies, no floating debris. Just nothing. Authorities launched an investigation, but the conclusions were vague at best. They suggested that the crew panicked when the engine failed and flooding began. Fearing the ship would sink, they may have evacuated into lifeboats only to be lost at sea. But this theory didn't sit well with many. The Joyita was known to be unsinkable due to its design. Even with flooding in the lower decks, it would stay afloat indefinitely. Captain Thomas Miller, a seasoned sailor, would have known this better than anyone. Abandoning ship, especially in calm weather, would have been completely out of character. So, what really happened? Over the years, several theories emerged, each darker than the last. Some believed the Joyita had fallen victim to piracy. The South Pacific in the 1950s wasn't without its dangers. Unregulated waters, cargo routes, and valuable goods made ships like Joyita easy targets. According to this theory, armed pirates boarded the ship, killed or captured the crew, looted the cargo, and sabotaged the radio to prevent distress calls. But there was no sign of gunfire, no bullet holes, no damage from struggle, just the blood, just the silence. Another theory pointed to mutiny. Perhaps a conflict broke out on board. One of the officers disagreed with the captain's orders. Tensions escalated. A fight, a fatal injury, a power vacuum. The rest of the passengers panicked and fled, either forced or misled. This could explain the blood, the missing lifeboats, and the lack of coordinated evacuation. But it didn't explain the total disappearance of all 25 people, men, women, even children, without a trace. Then there's the possibility of radio sabotage and premeditated disappearance. The fact that the distress signal was misrouted and the radio manually tampered with suggests intention. Someone wanted the Joyita to vanish. Whether to cover up a crime or to disappear with its cargo, or perhaps with one of the passengers, is unclear. But whoever did it left no trail. One theory focuses on a single passenger, Dr. Alfred Parsons, a British physician known to travel frequently between the islands. Some speculated that he may have been targeted, that perhaps someone on board had reason to silence him. But again, no evidence ever surfaced, no remains, no confirmation. And then there are the whispers. Whispers of something stranger. Some locals, especially in remote island communities, speak of ghost waters, places in the ocean where compasses spin, radios fail, and people vanish. They claim the sea around Fiji is cursed, that occasionally it takes what it wants and leaves only confusion behind. Of course, there's no science to support that. Just stories, just rumors passed down like waves in the dark. What isn't rumor is this: the Joyita didn't go down in a storm. She didn't suffer massive structural failure. Her flotation system worked, her hull stayed strong, and her crew was gone. Not a single body was ever found. Not a single lifeboat recovered. Not a single official explanation ever confirmed. Just a silent ship drifting under the Pacific sun with signs of panic blood on deck and a stopped clock marking a moment when perhaps 25 lives simply vanished into the ocean air. And as the years passed, the mystery deepened. No suspects, no witnesses, no closure. The Joyita was eventually repaired and returned to service, but crewmen who worked on her after the incident spoke of strange occurrences, equipment malfunctioning, cold spots, and the overwhelming sense that something on board was still waiting. Eventually, she was decommissioned and scrapped. But the questions remained. Where did the people go? Why abandon a ship that refused to sink? Why was the radio disabled? Why was there blood? And why, after all this time, has no single clue washed ashore? Some mysteries decay slowly, like rust under salt. Others remain suspended, like the Joyita herself, untouched, unsolved, and quietly terrifying. Because sometimes the ocean doesn't bury the truth. It just keeps it floating. Case 3. Mary Celeste, the ship that was too empty. On the morning of December 5, 1872, a British brigantine named Dei Gratia was sailing through calm Atlantic waters about 400 miles east of the Azores. The sea was smooth, the wind steady, and then the lookout spotted something in the distance, a ship drifting slowly, her sails partially set, no flag raised, and no signs of life. The vessel was the Mary Celeste. It should have been a routine merchant ship. She had departed New York on November 7th, bound for Genoa, Italy, carrying over 1,700 barrels of industrial alcohol. A seasoned crew was aboard 7 men, the captain, his wife, and their 2-year-old daughter. 10 people in total. Her captain, Benjamin Briggs, was known for being cautious, devout, and experienced. The ship was well stocked, in good condition, and nothing in her departure suggested anything would go wrong. And yet here she was adrift in the Atlantic sails, fluttering half loose, the wheel turning on its own in the wind. The crew of the Dei Gratia hailed the ship. No response. They circled closer. Still no signs of anyone aboard. Finally, a small team boarded. The moment they stepped onto the Mary Celeste, the silence was unsettling. The ship wasn't wrecked. It wasn't sinking, but it felt off. The decks were wet, but intact. The sails had been damaged slightly, but nothing severe. The cargo hold was mostly untouched barrels still stowed, though some appeared to be leaking. In the galley, food was laid out half-prepared, as if someone had stepped away mid-task. A teacup rested on a table unbroken. The ship's only lifeboat was gone. Below deck, the crew's belongings were untouched. Clothes still folded, pipes and boots left behind. The captain's cabin still held his navigational tools, charts, and the family Bible. But there was one thing missing everyone. The entire crew had vanished. No signs of struggle, no blood, no damage, no broken furniture. The ship's logbook had not been updated for 9 days. Its final entry described calm seas and routine sailing near the Azores. But that was it. No entry of panic, no mention of illness, no note of any emergency. 10 people had disappeared without explanation, leaving behind a ship in perfect, eerie stillness. Authorities in Gibraltar launched an investigation. Theories flew in every direction. Some suspected piracy. Perhaps the crew had been murdered and the cargo was to be stolen, but the cargo was still there, mostly intact. Others blamed the crew of the Dei Gratia, thinking they might have killed the others to claim salvage rights. But the British Admiralty found no evidence of foul play. Then came the whispers of mutiny, that the crew had turned on the captain and fled. But again there was no sign of violence. No hastily packed belongings, no damage to the captain's quarters, and why would they take his wife and child into a lifeboat in open sea? Another theory suggested alcohol fumes from the leaking barrels may have caused panic. Perhaps the crew thought the ship was about to explode and abandoned her in haste. But the alcohol in question was methanol, highly toxic, but not volatile. And no burns or damage were found anywhere on board. The most enduring theory is the most tragic, that something went wrong, something unexpected, but natural. A rogue wave, a sudden waterspout, a structural groan in the hull that sounded like a break. Captain Briggs, ever cautious, may have ordered everyone into the lifeboat as a precaution intending to stay nearby until danger passed. But then a rope snapped. A gust of wind caught the sails. The Mary Celeste drifted away silently, leaving the crew stranded at sea. But even that theory leaves questions. Why take everyone, including a toddler, off a ship that was still floating? Why no written log? No note? No sign of an emergency? The sea is full of accidents, but this didn't feel like an accident. It felt like absence, a clean vanishing. In the years that followed, the Mary Celeste was passed between several owners. Sailors claimed the ship was cursed, that strange things happened on board. Tools vanished, sails tore for no reason. One captain allegedly died on his first voyage with her. The ship finally ran aground near Haiti in 1885 and was abandoned for good. But the story never died. Writers tried to fictionalize it. Some accused aliens, others invoked sea monsters or Bermuda Triangle nonsense. But none of that was needed. The real facts were chilling enough. A ship leaves port with 10 souls. 30 days later, it's found intact, calm, adrift, and completely empty. No wreckage, no cries for help, no farewell. Just a ghost on the water moving with the wind, carrying only silence. The Mary Celeste became the most famous ghost ship in maritime history, not because of how she looked, but because of what she lacked. People, answers, closure, and to this day, no body has ever been recovered. No lifeboat has been found. The fate of Captain Briggs, his family, and his crew remains a mystery. Sometimes it's not violence or disaster that haunts us. It's the feeling that someone was there alive, planning dinner, reading a chart, and then they were gone, vanished into thin air, or into the sea, without a sound. And the ship left behind sails on, quiet, empty, watching. 3 ships, 3 vanished crews, and oceans that still refuse to give back the truth. If these stories stayed with you, subscribe for more cases that never made it safely to shore. This is Roadside Tales.